Coming to the Tainted Tavern, come sit a while for free. We talk about our musings and devices we've been using.
Hello, and welcome to the Tainted Tavern, the place where the stories are always on top and a warm welcome is always kept for you. Today, I want to talk about two Blu-ray releases, two classic movies, and that is Alfred Hitchcock's seminal 1960 movie Psycho, probably one of the best known movies in movie history, and also featuring that infamous shower scene. I want to talk about the Blu-ray release of that as well as the film itself. The Blu-ray release I've got here is on Universal Pictures. There's probably a 4K version of this. In fact, I will research that fact after this quick introduction, so when we get to the video proper I'll be able to tell you if there is, but I would be very surprised if there's not a 4K release of this. This is an absolutely classic movie. And then I want to talk about a film that shouldn't work but does. A film that Quentin Tarantino claims is even better than the original Psycho. That is in his estimation, of course. I don't agree with that, although it is a fantastic movie. I wasn't really familiar with this movie until I picked up this Blu-ray I'm about to show you, which is a lovely release from Arrow Video. Arrow Video, of course, are a boutique label, and they put together some great extra features on every single one of their Blu-rays, as well as a cool reversible cover, so you can select two covers. And that following movie, if you haven't guessed it already, is Psycho 2, the 1983 sequel to Alfred Hitchcock's classic Psycho. So, settle back. In a moment, we'll pair these films with a drink, and today is going to be an AZ IPA. I do like AZ IPAs. There's no real connection between an AZ IPA and mad mother-fixated serial killers. It's just something I like to do this video, and I'll probably have a puff of a pipe as well and smoke some of this O'Canan Balkan mix, which is a mix from GQ Tobaccos. This stuff is no longer available, I believe, and this is quite a few years old. It's a tasty smoke. So anyway, let's settle back and let's talk about two psychos walking into a bar. Okay, welcome back to the Tainted Tavern. And the first thing I'd like to tell you is, yes, Psycho, the original Alfred Hitchcock classic, is available in a 4K restoration. It comes from Universal Pictures, the same as this, Universal Home Video. And I am tempted to get it because even though I don't think the upgrade from 4K, from Blu-ray to 4K is that great, the audio commentary is different on the 4K release. The rest of the special features are exactly the same. So before we discuss both films, let's pour ourselves, as I said, this video, I'm pairing this with an AZ IPA from Vacation Brewery, that is Crush Hour, which is 4.6%. I'm not suggesting that AZ IPAs have anything to do with, as I said, mother-fixated serial killers, but it's a nice drink. It's a nice refreshing drink to keep my vocal cords lubricated while I talk. Now, in terms of DVD releases, neither are really superior to each other. Both are jam-packed with special features. The original Psycho special features is remastering Psycho into HD, the making of Psycho, a documentary, In the Master's Shadow, which looks at Hitchcock's entire filmic legacy. That's really interesting. There's talk between Hitchcock and Trufant. Newsreel footage from the release of Psycho, which is quite fascinating. You've got the shower scene presented independently from the movie, both with and without sound, and that's really interesting to see how cleverly Hitchcock used the sound to bring that scene alive. There's the Psycho archives, posters and Psycho ads, lobby cards, behind the scenes photographs, publicity shop, the original Psycho trailer, theatrical trailer. There's also a re-release trailer. You've got then a section called My Scenes. Of course, as we said, the aforementioned commentary. And we've also got, and of course, the aforementioned comedy commentary by Stephen Rebello, who was the author of Hitchcock and the Making of Psycho. So it's a really cool presentation. The actual Blu-ray transfer is excellent, but then old black and white films always seem to look that much better when brought up to high definition, more so than modern color movies, in my opinion. This is stunningly well presented with it's brilliantly photographed. The eye contrast black and white comes alive, and the grain management in this is absolutely top notch. There is film grain there to give you that cinematic experience, but it's not overwhelming. Now on to the second movie, Psycho 2. Again, this is a very good Blu-ray presentation, but then you'd expect that from being from Arrow Films. It's got a reversible cover, so you can have two choices of the front cover, just for us anal fans out there. So you can have this version here, which is more or less the picture of the Psycho house with a little Norman Bates standing there, or you can have this version, which I prefer, which is a bit more sinister. You've got Anthony Perkins here as Psycho, and the shadowy cast is Mama Psycho, the mad old woman that Perkins became in the original film. So that's both DVD releases. Oh, wait, I'm doing this film a disservice because there are some other stuff that I'd like to tell you about this release. Now, the special features on here, it's jam-packed, as are most Arrow releases. We've got the digital transfer from original film elements, high definition Blu-ray, 1080p presentation, original stereo 2.0 and 5.1 PTS, HD master audio, got optional subtitles for the deaf and hard of hearing, an audio commentary by screenwriter Tom Holland, who must have been absolutely terrified to actually produce a script for this movie. Can you imagine what it must have been like to remake Psycho? You know the critics would be out for you. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say remake Psycho, but to write a sequel to such a beloved movie, the pressure must have been on there. We've then got Behind the Curtain, the Masters of Horror on Psycho, which is an interesting panel discussion on all things Psycho, which includes Tom Holland and the Psycho Legacy director Rob Galuzzo. We've got features on Robert Bloch, the original writer of the novels, which were the source material for Psycho. We've got some Anthony Perkins TV and audio interviews. There's interviews with Vera Miles, and every time I see Vera Miles, I expect her to shout out, "Marty Pauly!" But anyway, both films, in terms of the releases, are equally high value. Where Arrow Video does trump the universal release is in the booklet that comes with the movie. It's quite a comprehensive booklet. There's several essays in here, some lovely photographs. There's Meg Tilly there, of course, with Anthony Hopkins. Meg Tilly does a wonderful job in this movie, and there's a really good chemistry evident on screen between her and Anthony Hopkins, despite the rumours that they didn't really get on. But there's some interesting essays in here, and as I say, some lovely photographs. So in terms of DVD, Blu-ray releases, and ignoring the feature films they contain, then I would say Psycho 2 trumps Psycho, mainly because of the introduction of the booklet. It's not just a cheap throwaway booklet. There is some interesting articles in here, and it does add to the quality of the film you're getting, because it's interesting to read this. I read this from cover to cover. It probably took me about 30 minutes, so it's not too slim at all, and it's really interesting, as I say. So it's a brilliant release. That's the booklet with the Arrow Video. Arrow Video are probably my favorite home video house boutique label. These and say Eureka are always, you can always rely on a quality product from both of those companies. Anyway, so that's the disc. But let's talk about the movies. Two psychos walked into a bar. Okay, now let's talk about the movies, and I've made some notes here of some things I want to discuss in this. So let's talk about along, Psycho Killer. Boy. So let's talk about the I'll give it a rest, that's not the right one either. Sorry about that. Two psychos walked into a bar. Now, Psycho, the original movie, what can be said about it? I mean, it's really well known. There can't be many people watching this video, stumble across this video who haven't seen it yet. It was probably the movie that most influenced the slasher genre that would become so popular in the 1980s and onwards. So in many ways you can blame Psycho for all that Friday the 13th crap we've had to put up with over the years. Although John Carpenter's original Halloween, which was also influenced by Psycho, was a damn good movie. Now, the most famous sequence from Psycho is that shower scene. Now, the entire movie was shot in around 30 days, but the shower scene itself took 7 days to complete, in which Janet Leigh, as Jamie Lee Curtis's mother, is stabbed to death in the shower by a frantic, crazed Norman Bates dressed as his mother. There were 70 different setups for this scene, and it's basically just a montage of different cuts, and it's really effective with score playing alongside it. You get that famous zzzt, zzzt, with each camera cut, so that the camera cuts almost become the knife going into the flesh of Janet Leigh. The sound effects for the knife actually penetrating the flesh, they had several melons on set in which the sound engineer was driving the knife into the melons. It's really effective. It's an absolutely brilliant scene. And if you watch it now, it won't be as gory as you remember. You see very little in the actual scene, and yet it absolutely horrifies you, and that was the skill of Hitchcock. The end of that scene where the camera zooms in on Janet Leigh's eye, her dead eye, and lingers there for a moment, it's really effective. Psycho, the way it opens with a cityscape, and the camera pans along the cityscape. Hitchcock originally wanted that to be an helicopter shot, to come over the cityscape and go into a window where we see Janet Leigh and John Gavin. She's having an affair with John Gavin. They want to get married, they want to be together, but John Gavin hasn't got the finances for that. He's paying off debts owed by his father's business. John Gavin, interestingly, is the only man who ever actually signed a contract to play James Bond. Got paid to play James Bond, but didn't end up doing the role. That was for Diamonds Are Forever. He was signed up for the movie, but then the producers managed to persuade Sean Connery back, but they had to honour John Gavin's contract. So John Gavin's probably had the shortest tenure as James Bond, because for a period there he was Eon's official James Bond, though he didn't make a single movie. That's just by and by. The film Psycho, the violence in it is not graphic in any way. I mean, it was difficult what they could show in the 1960s. In fact, this film was the first time that you ever saw a toilet, believe it or not, on screen. And not only do you see the toilet, but it's flushed when Janet Leigh's character, as Marion, rips up a piece of incriminating evidence because she's just stolen $40,000, which is explained in this first section of the film. She steals $40,000, she decides to flee town, and that's the setup for this movie. So Janet Leigh is the star for the first quarter of the film, and when she gets dispatched then so shockingly by Norman Bates, at that time we think it's Norman Bates' mother doing the killing. When she gets dispatched, the audience are completely thrown off kilter and they don't know what to expect next, and that was the brilliance of Alfred Hitchcock. Now Psycho 2 starts off with that shower scene. It repeats the shower scene from Psycho 1, and then as we come to the end of the shower scene again with Janet Leigh sliding to the floor of the shower, ripping the shower curtain off as she falls, the film comes into colour. And now we are in 1980s, so it's 23 years since the original Psycho, and we end up in a court looking on a courtyard in which Anthony Perkins as Norman Bates is deemed to no longer be a threat to society and allowed out. Now that's an interesting thing about the way Anthony Perkins played Norman Bates. He was a bat crazy psycho, and yet his performance in the original Psycho gave the audience sympathy for him, and he manages to repeat that in this. And in fact, in Psycho 2, you will feel even more sympathy for Tony Perkins' character of Norman Bates. I can understand why a luminary such as Quentin Tarantino, a man who knows a thing or two about movies and is probably one of my favorite directors, considers Psycho 2 to be superior to Hitchcock's original. I don't think it is, but I can understand where he's coming from, because no one would have expected Psycho 2 to be that good. You know, you'd expect it to be a cheap throwaway movie, milking a dead horse, so to speak. But it's not. And in fact, even Universal, when the Psycho 2 production was started off, they didn't think they had anything here. They thought at the very best this was going to be a TV movie. But it was only when the producer and the writer managed to persuade Tony Perkins back for the Psycho role that Universal realized, wow, we may actually have something here. And of course, not only is Tony Perkins back from the original, but Vera Miles is here too. Marty Pauly! And in this, her character becomes far more of an evil, dislikable character than Tony Perkins. The female lead is by a then unknown actress, and that is Meg Tilly, who was given the role. She plays Vera Mills' character's daughter, and together they are trying to drive Norman Bates crazy again so he can go back to the asylum because Vera Miles hasn't forgiven him for killing her sister in the original movie. And Meg Tilly, who was an unknown at that time, wasn't the first choice for this. Jamie Lee Curtis auditioned, as did Carrie Fisher, yes, Princess Leia. But in the end, the producers decided to go with Meg Tilly, and she's brilliant. She's absolutely brilliant in this, and the chemistry between her and Tony Perkins is really effective on screen, although there are rumours that they didn't get on. Anthony Perkins was supposedly a bit awkward on set, and Meg Tilly resented the fact that Tony Perkins... Now, Meg Tilly wasn't aware of the original Psycho movie, and she resented the fact that Tony Perkins was treated as the star when she felt clearly that it should be her. But Psycho 2 is an absolutely brilliant movie. It's not a cheap sequel, it's not a cheap, cash-in on the brilliance of the original movie. It is a good movie in itself. And in terms of exploration of the Norman Bates character, I think it may be slightly superior in that sense to the original Psycho, because the original Psycho, at the end of the movie, when you get this after we found out that it was Norman Bates all along dressing up as his mother committing these crimes, you get this scene at the end there where the psychiatrist is talking to some of the main characters, and that to me seems a bit awkward and a bit clunky. Psycho 2 doesn't suffer from that. Also, Psycho 2 gives us some more information on the Norman Bates character, because in the original movie we saw Norman Bates kill Janet Leigh, of course, and we saw him kill the detective, the private detective, and we known he'd kill others, but we wasn't sure how many others he had killed. But Psycho 2 tells us that he actually killed 7 people. So both of these movies belong in any film buff collection, and Psycho 2 is far better than it had any right to be. It's a movie that can stand on its own. It's brilliantly acted, excellently directed, and really well written, so it doesn't cheapen the original movie. So Psycho and Psycho 2 both highly recommended for me. So that's it for now.
Coming to the Tainted Tavern, come sit a while for free. We talk about our musings and devices we've been using.